This year we're doing something I think quite exciting. We're doing a complete thematic season. So for 2013-2014, most of the pieces we're doing are somehow related to Shakespeare or based upon Shakespeare's texts and plays. We're trying to look at how Shakespeare translates into opera. We decided to collaborate with Paul Yaknin, who is the Shakespeare professor here at McGill University, Paul Hopkins, who is the artistic director of Repercussion Theatre, and work with the students for these big all-day master classes on Shakespeare. The first one we called Shakespeare Bootcamp.
So the first thing that I would do as an actor, if I get Shakespeare texts, is make sure that I understand what I'm saying.
It's a bit of an experiment, looking into Shakespeare, examining the tools that one would use to act Shakespeare, and and therefore would use also to be an actor, period. So we're using Shakespeare as a means of exploring that. And then we'll see how that reflects and deepens their ability to perform opera.
First thing we did at the workshop was an intensive study of one of Shakespeare's sonnets. And we started off with a very good reading by the student, Jeff.
When in disgrace with fortune and men's eyes, I all alone beweep my outcast state.
And Jeff is an actor, but all of us in the room got into its complexity, its psychological complexity, its philosophical complexity, its poetic complexity. And then Jeff read it again. And it was electrifying. He found so much more that was in it.
That then I disdain the thought of altering my position with Elvis. You'd think it's like, oh, okay, well, it's in English, it should be easier to understand it, but it's not, because it's Shakespeare and the language is built in with so much flourish, and there's just so many metaphors, and part of what we were working on this workshop was trying to paraphrase that and really understand it.
First thing that we are doing actually this September 21st is Sonnets and Songs. It's called a Shakespeare Serenade. The idea for this is that 16 singers come together and sing a song, each one of them, by a different composer based on Shakespeare texts.
Come away, death, and in sad cypress let me be laid. Fly.
I know the history of the texts, I know the history of Shakespearean performance, I know what all the words mean, or almost all the words mean.
Song in its entirety is about death. As we've noticed, most of Shakespeare is about death.
So I can help people understand what they're saying or what they're singing. And people speak better and they sing better if they understand the words.
For me, I'm a big nerd with words, so I think it makes a big difference to be so specific. The song itself is very straightforward. It's, like men are pigs and you should just be okay with it and be beautiful and happy. Adding the two characters into the scene and speaking directly to them really helped me to feel transported to that scene.
There are going to be 6 sonnets spoken in a variety of accents, actually. So we have some in what's called received pronunciation, some in modern English, one with a southern accent.
What we have found is that Shakespeare verse sounds great when Southerners talk it, because Shakespeare's vowels are closer to Southern American speech than it is to modern Mid-Atlantic speech.
But for their virtue only is their show. They live unwooed and unrespected fade.
I was asked to recite it like a Southern beauty queen. Putting it in a completely different context brought this new meaning to it that I had not even accessed yet.
The sonnets are little capsules of Shakespeare that are very effective in teaching the tools of Shakespeare. And what you can do is then you play with the iambic pentameter and speaking verse and the punctuation, but it's only in 14 lines. And then sonnets aren't part of a play, so then you create the imaginary circumstances around the sonnet, which you could just come up with on your own.
I was the first guinea pig for teaching iambic pentameter.
Weeks, but bears it out even to the edge of doom.
The humanity of Shakespeare's iambic is living in the breadth of that iambic beat. And the consequence has been that the sonnets as a whole, have become the highlights of the show for me.
Opera and Shakespeare are a great combination. First of all, because they both have tragedies and comedies.
The world is filled with Shakespeare-inspired operas.
They both seem to explore universal themes and epic stories. They both have the ability to be over the top, perhaps.
We are all singers, and as such, we approach the music very easily. Saturday allowed us to access the music of the words. The workshop introduced us to this idea of translating the words into something that's more personal, and then translating it back into what Shakespeare wrote, and finding the perfection in the way that Shakespeare set those words in a sonnet, in a song, and bringing those to life in a way that was unique to us and to the right now.
You know, we did a solid 6.5 hours of Shakespeare in one day. I was amazed, actually. They were engaged the whole time.
It's just so cool to see different disciplines coming together, and it's so inspiring, and to look at something from a different viewpoint is such a gift. This year is really like, they hit it out of the park this year.
I get to learn about what happens when an art form changes from one modality, theater, to another, opera. And I get to see what happens when people start to exchange skills with each other across the boundary that separates art forms.
Opera's never about the day nothing happened.
Because Shakespeare's art is poetry, which is something I study, but Shakespeare's art is also music, it is dance, it is movement, it is acting, it is all these things, and that's what we're trying to recapture with this project.
It's the academic mixed with the artistry that's really taking this to the next level, and I think it's going to be something that's really exciting this year.
I think one of the other things that the themed year is providing is an opportunity for students to really dive deeper. The students in Opera McGill feel connected between the productions. When they go and see one show, it's informing their show. It's informing their work. It's informing their research. It's informing their performance. And that's what we're supposed to be about here at McGill, I think.